Today's video is brought to us by Sonoran Desert Institute. If you're like most gun owners who like to repair and upgrade your own firearms, well, why not take that passion and turn it into a career? SDI is a distance learning institute, and all of the materials and tools are shipped directly to your door. They have classes on ballistics, gunsmithing, armorers courses, and even drone classes. You can get your certificate or your degree and take that step now. Check out the link down below and in the pinned comment, sdi.edu. And thank you to the Sonoran Desert Institute for making today's video possible. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I appreciate your time. Thank you for watching. Sorry, you're gonna hear some rain, tap dancing on the air conditioner in the window. It's one of those days here. Now I want to give you some information that piggybacks off of the victory I told you about in Firearms Policy Coalition's case, Vanderstock v. Garland, in which a federal U.S. District Court judge in Texas granted a preliminary injunction in part, saying, watch the video up above. I go through the case in detail, but he just eviscerates the ATF and their new frame receiver rule. Well, I also want to show you the other side of that coin, because it's keen for us to stay in the know with what's actually happening, especially if you live in some of these states where you might not think that your state is really pushing to remove the nation's firearms. Now, I say that because a group of 20 attorneys general joined forces in an amicus brief to try to sway Judge O'Connor to side with the rule, the ATF's final rule on frame and receivers. Now I'm going to show it to you here on the screen. Now this is the brief of the District of Columbia and the states of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, California, Colorado, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, New York, North Carolina, Oregon, Rhode Island, Washington, and Wisconsin in support of Merrick Garland and the ATF. Now they start out their brief by saying the District of Columbia and the states of New Jersey and Pennsylvania, on behalf of themselves, and the states of California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, New York, North Carolina, Oregon, Rhode Island, Washington, and Wisconsin, collectively the amici states, file this brief as amici curiae in support of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives and its authority to enact the final rule at issue. See definition of frame or receiver and identification of firearms, and this is citing where you can find those definitions, which I went over in that video above. The amici states' dominant interest in preventing violence cannot be questioned. It is a matter of genuine local concern. Now I'm going to pause right there before I move on, and I am going to ask you, can their dominant interest in preventing violence be called into question? I certainly think so. On screen is something that you may or may not remember that happened about 2 years ago, leading up to the elections in November for the president's election. And these same ass clowns from these same states were calling for people to burn the country down. Ayanna Pressley from Massachusetts, she said there needs to be unrest in the streets. She's a congresswoman. Kamala Harris from California, protesters should not let up. Maxine Waters from California, if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, you get out and you create a crowd and you push back on them. Speaking of President Trump's cabinet. And then good old Pelosi, also from California. I just don't know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be. Now those asshats were asking for violence. Public demands for violence, political violence, and we're supposed to believe that their dominant interest in preventing violence cannot be questioned. Off my soapbox and continuing on. In recent years, gun violence has exploded across the country. Yes, because their policies and their calls for violence led to that. Gun-related homicides rose nearly 35% between 2019 and 2020, reaching their highest level in over 25 years. At the same time, advances in firearms technology have contributed to the rapid proliferation of ghost guns, unserialized firearms that can be built at home from easily assembled weapon parts or kits, or partially complete frames or receivers is the rest of that. Their policies made it happen, and believe you me, I believe That was done intentionally. In fact, if you watch the channel, I told you what they were doing. They were creating an issue where criminals could thrive, people would be in fear, people would be hurt and targeted, crime would rise, they went soft on crime, they let people back out to reoffend, and then when their voters were saying, hey, we got to stop this, and then here comes the tidal wave, and that's where we are right now in the tidal wave. Got to get rid of guns. Guns are the problem. Not these criminals that we've empowered for the last 2 years, 2.5 years. No, not our voter base. We need to take the guns and the tools away from the people who aren't doing this. I'm going to get to the summary of their argument because I got to get off this soapbox because I'm going to get fired up. 1. The final rule is consistent with the text, history, and purposes of the GCA. Well, that's funny because Clarence Thomas and the Supreme Court said text, history, and tradition. The final rule is not consistent with the text of the Second Amendment. Not at all. It's not consistent with the history of the nation around the time the Second Amendment was adopted. It was never stopped. It was never restricted, yet they're going to try to say, man, you know, it's part of the history of the Gun Control Act. Well, the country existed before 1968 there, guys. It really did. As the rule recognizes, readily assembled weapons, parts, kits, or partially complete frames or receivers are firearms under the statute's plain text. The history and context of the Act confirms this common sense interpretation. Congress enacted a broad scheme to regulate the interstate flow of firearms, and the rule ensures that the Act and similar state laws are not thwarted by advances in gun technology. 2. The final rule is a vital backstop for states' efforts to stem the flow of ghost guns and combat the violence that has resulted. In response to the recent influx of ghost guns, at least 14 jurisdictions have enacted their own laws regulating weapons, parts kits, and partially complete frames or receivers. But absent federal enforcement, the number of unserialized guns has proliferated, leaving in its wake a spike in crime and violence. The final rule serves a vital coordinating function consistent with the Gun Control Act that states cannot exercise on their own. First question. How do you know if anything is proliferated if they're not serialized? You don't know. They're just throwing that out there because the sheep will eat that up. Oh, there's got to be a ton of them. We're supposed to be afraid of these. They're called ghost guns. Woo! Piss off. Text, history, and tradition. And that is it. And I'm so glad that Judge O'Connor saw through the BS to grant the initial partial injunction. Now that lawsuit is still going. I got a lot of people asking, well, when will the lawsuit be filed? This is the lawsuit. It is going forward. And so far we have a victory, but that victory only affects that one company that I told you about. Tactical Machining is the only one so far that the ATF cannot enforce the final rule on. I have a strong feeling, just based off of what I told you and what I read from the judge in that video above, that this is going to go our way. And the anti-gunners are scared pooless. They are scared because once this falls, the rest is coming down with it. Guys and gals, we need to get this information out. People need to know this because if people are asking questions when the information has already happened, like we've already got a small victory and people don't know about it, that's because we're not sharing the information. So please share the video. Help me get through the YouTube anti-gun algorithm. Like the video, share it, and subscribe. Those 3 things take you about 1.5 seconds to do, and it makes a huge difference in support of not just this channel, but any channel you watch. Subscribe, like, and share. And if you want to stay in the know when I put out new information, oftentimes several times a day, every single day, then hit the bell icon and turn it on to all notifications. And if you want to see who are the people in this anti-gun neighborhood here on this amicus brief who are trying to strip your rights, trying to get a court to strip the rights of the American people, these are the people on these 2 pages who back this document, who have signed their names to this document. So share this, guys, get it out there. I'm also going to ask you one more thing, selfishly. Please check out Freedom Garage. It's my car review channel. It is kind of like my break away from this stress. It helps me stay sane. If you could go over there, if you like cars, please sub it up, and let's get that channel to grow a little bit so that I can continue to bring you cool cars. If you like cars, new cars, old cars, muscle cars, cool cars, expensive cars, they're all on that channel, and they're coming out Tuesdays and Fridays is when I'm planning on putting stuff out. And I thank you for your consideration. Till we see each other again, be safe, stay vigilant, carry a gun to keep you, your friends, your family, your community safe. That's what the Second Amendment is for, and that's what these ass clowns fear the most, is not being able to push in and take control. See you in the next one. Take care.